I woke up on Christmas morning and received a text message. Mom, we are canceling lunch. We do not have time for you today. We are going to eat with my mother-in-law. It was 6 in the morning. I lay there staring at the ceiling. No sadness, just emptiness. At 8 o'clock, I got up and packed my suitcase. At 10 o'clock, a taxi came for me, and nobody imagined where I was about to go. The cell phone screen illuminated my face in the dark. I read the message once, then another time, and a third. As if the words were going to magically change if I insisted enough. But no, there they were, cold and precise like a sentence. Mom, we are canceling lunch. We do not have time for you today. We are going to eat with my mother-in-law. My name is Olivia. I am 68 years old, and that Christmas morning I understood something I had been denying for 3 whole years. I did not matter anymore. Outside, the neighbors were beginning to turn on their Christmas lights. I heard distant laughter, the clinking of glasses toasting, carols slipping through the half-open window of my room. My room. That service room at the back of the house where I had slept for the last 1,000 days of my life. The same house I built with my husband 35 years ago. The house where I raised Thomas, my only son. The house that was now everyone's except mine. I did not cry. That is the strange thing. I expected to feel pain, fury, disappointment. But the only thing I felt was clarity. A cold and luminous clarity, like the dawn that was beginning to filter through the cheap curtains that Valerie had hung there when she moved me to this corner. If you want to know how a woman can lose her place in her own life, subscribe to the channel. Because what you are about to hear is not just my story. It is the story of thousands of invisible mothers. I sat up slowly. My knees creaked with that familiar sound of tired bones. I looked around. A twin bed, a chipped nightstand, my few clothes hanging in a closet without a door. This was all that remained of the kingdom that a queen once ruled. But that morning, something in me had broken. Or maybe something had finally been fixed. I pulled the old suitcase from under the bed, the same one my husband and I traveled to Florida with on our honeymoon. It smelled of mothballs and memories. I began to fold clothes with mechanical, precise movements. 3 pairs of pants, 5 blouses, underwear. My hand-knitted sweater, the one my sister Rose gave me 2 years ago. Do you know what was most revealing? That everything I needed fit in a single suitcase. Sometime between 7 and 8, I heard movement in the hallway. Hurried steps. Valerie getting the twins ready. Sam shouting something about Santa Claus. Renee crying because she wanted to wear her red dress. Sounds of a family waking up on Christmas. A family I was no longer part of. At 8:30, the front door closed. The car started. They left, and I kept packing. I took the small urn with my husband's ashes. "We are leaving, honey," I whispered to him. "It is time." I called the taxi. The driver said he would arrive in an hour and a half. Perfect. Enough time to close this chapter without fuss or dramatic scenes. I sat on the edge of the bed with my brown coat on, the suitcase by my feet, and for the first time in years I allowed myself to remember who I was before becoming the shadow of this house. Olivia Margaret, Robert's widow, an elementary school teacher for 32 years, mother of a son who once looked at me as if I were his hero. Wife of a man who made me feel valuable until his last breath. At what moment had that woman become this? The unpaid nanny? The maid in her own home? The nuisance that could be canceled with a text message? The taxi horn sounded outside exactly at 10. I got up. I took my suitcase. I closed the door of the service room for the last time. I left a letter on the dining room table, just 3 lines. I left. I need to remember who I am without you. Do not look for me. The taxi driver helped me with the suitcase. "To the airport, ma'am?" he asked. "Yes, to the airport." As the taxi moved through the streets decorated with ornaments and garlands, I looked at the house for the last time. That two-story house with a front garden where I had planted rose bushes that now climbed up to the roof. The windows were closed, dark, as if the house itself had given up. "Family visit?" the taxi driver asked, trying to fill the silence. I smiled barely. Something like that. I did not know that would be the last time I would see that house as a resident. I did not know that what I had just started would change everything forever, because sometimes the only way to save yourself is to disappear, and I had just become a ghost. How did I lose my place in my own family? If someone had told me 5 years ago that I would end up sleeping in the service room of my own house, I would have laughed in their face. But the truth is that no one strips you all at once. They take away little pieces so small that you do not even realize you are disappearing. It all started 3 years ago when Thomas arrived one April afternoon with that nervous smile I had known since he was a child. The same smile as when he broke the vase in the living room at 8 years old, or when he failed math in high school. "Mom, there is someone I want you to meet." Valerie walked into my living room as if she were walking onto a runway. High heels, fitted dress, that sweet perfume that flooded the entire space, straight dark hair falling perfectly over her shoulders. Magazine smile. She extended her hand with perfectly manicured nails and said, "Mrs. Olivia, I have heard so much about you." I was still wearing the apron I had been using to make meatballs. I had flour on my hands. I felt small in front of her, even though I was the one in my own house. I should have paid attention to that first feeling. By October of that year, they were already married. Intimate wedding, they said. "Mom, Valerie wants something simple, without so much drama." I, who had dreamed of organizing my only son's wedding, ended up as just another guest, sitting in the third row of a rented garden, watching a coordinator I did not know direct everything. But the worst was not that. The worst was what came after. "Mom, we need to stay with you for a few months," Thomas told me 2 weeks after the wedding, "just while we find something. You know how the real estate market is." How was I going to say no? He was my son, my only son, and this house had 4 bedrooms. There was plenty of space. "Of course, son, take the time you need." Valerie suggested they take the master bedroom. It has its own bathroom, Liv, and well, we are a couple. We need our space. She called me Liv, as if we were friends for life, as if my full name was too formal for her. I had slept in that bedroom since I became a widow. It was where I had mourned my husband's death, where I still kept his clothes because I did not have the strength to give them away, where his essence still lived in every corner. Of course, I heard coming out of my mouth, "I will move to the guest room." The guest room became my refuge for 6 months, until Valerie suggested turning it into an office. "I work from home, Liv. I need a professional space. Would you mind using the other bedroom?" The other bedroom was smaller. It faced the backyard where the neighbors' dogs barked every morning. "No problem. Another 6 months later. Liv, we are going to use that bedroom as a nursery. I am pregnant. Isn't it wonderful?" And that is how I ended up in the service room. "Just until the baby is born and we move," Thomas promised. The baby turned into babies, twins, Sam and Renee, and the months of waiting turned into years. Widowed 5 years ago, a refugee in my own home for 3. My husband Robert had been an electrician, a good man, one of those who fixed everything at home and never raised his voice. He died of a heart attack while installing a fan at a client's house. Fast. Without goodbyes. He left me this fully paid house, a modest life insurance that I invested, and a pension of about $1,500 a month. I was not rich, but I did not lack anything either, until Valerie arrived. At first they were small changes. "Liv, don't you think these curtains are very old-fashioned?" I bought new ones. The curtains my mother had helped me sew disappeared into a trash bag. "Liv, this armchair is very worn out. I donated it to a charity." The armchair where Robert watched football on Sundays went away one morning while I was at the market. "Liv, I found these photos on the bookshelf. I put them in a box so they don't gather dust. My wedding photos, Thomas's baptism, our family trips, buried in a cardboard box in the hallway closet. Every change came wrapped in a smile, in seemingly reasonable logic, and I nodded because I did not want to be the bitter mother-in-law, the old woman resisting change, the one causing problems. But then the piano disappeared. My rosewood piano, the piece I bought with my first paycheck as a lead teacher, where I taught Thomas his first notes, where Robert sang ballads to me on anniversaries. One Saturday, I came home from the market and the space in the living room was empty. "Where is my piano?" I asked, trying to keep calm. Valerie did not even look up from her phone. "I sold it. It took up too much space and no one played it. They gave me $800. I deposited it for you." $800 for an instrument worth more than $15,000. "You could not do that without consulting me," I said with my voice breaking. "Liv, please, this house needed space. Besides, when was the last time you used it?" Thomas entered at that moment. "Mom, don't make drama. It is done." Drama? Defending the little I had left was drama? But I said nothing more, because I had learned that every time I protested, Valerie cried, Thomas defended her, and I ended up being the villain. That is how I learned to swallow my words. That is how I disappeared from my own life. And the most painful part? That I did not even realize it until it was too late, until that Christmas morning when a message showed me my true place in this family. None. When my house ceased to be mine. They say a house has a memory, that the walls absorb laughter, tears, midnight conversations. If that is true, then my house must have cried with me as it watched its soul being stripped away. After the piano came the porcelain. My mother had inherited a complete collection of fine china figurines to me. There were 20 pieces she collected herself over 40 years, each with its story, its origin, its meaning. They were in a wooden display cabinet in the dining room, protected behind glass that I cleaned every Sunday with almost reverential care. One afternoon, I returned from my monthly medical appointment, and the cabinet was empty. "The porcelain?" I asked with my stomach in a knot. Valerie was feeding the twins in the kitchen. She did not even turn around. "Ah, yes, I had a garage sale last Saturday. Everything sold. I got $250. We needed that space for the kids' toys. $250 for my mother's legacy. Valerie, those pieces were my mom's. You had no right." Finally, she looked at me with that expression she had perfected. Innocent surprise mixed with slight annoyance. "Liv, no one told me they were important. They looked like simple ornaments gathering dust. Besides, the children need space to grow. We cannot live in a museum." Thomas came in with Sam in his arms. "What is happening now? Your wife sold your grandmother's porcelain." He shrugged. "Mom, it was old stuff. You cannot cling to the past all your life. Old stuff. His grandmother's legacy reduced to old stuff." That night, in my service room, I made a mental list of everything that had disappeared in 2 years. The rosewood piano, $800 from a real value of $15,000. My mother's porcelain, $250 from an incalculable value. The silver tea set Robert gave me on our 25th anniversary, gifted to Valerie's cousin. The wicker rocking chair where I nursed Thomas, sold online for $80. The embroidered curtains to the trash. My father's mahogany bookshelf, donated to a school. My vinyl records of classic boleros, disappeared without explanation. But what hurt me most was the watch. Robert's gold watch. A Swiss piece his father gave him when he graduated from high school. My husband wore it every day of his life until he died. I kept it in a small velvet box inside my nightstand drawer, along with his wedding ring. One morning I looked for the box, and it was not there. I checked every drawer, under the bed, between the clothes. Nothing. "Has anyone seen a small velvet box?" I asked at dinner. Valerie bit a piece of chicken before answering. "The dark blue box? Yes, I took it for repair. The watch was broken. It was not broken. And I did not give you permission to touch it. Liv, Relax, I just wanted to help. Thomas told me it was his dad's watch, and I thought it would be nice to restore it. Where is it? At the jeweler's downtown. You can pick it up whenever you want. I went the next day. The jeweler looked at me confused. Velvet box? No watch like that has arrived here, ma'am. I called Valerie. It is not at the jewelry store. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, how strange. Maybe I left it at another one. I will check my notes and let you know. She never let me know. The watch never appeared. And when I asked again, weeks later, she told me the dry cleaners probably lost it or something that she did not remember well. That watch was worth at least $5,000. But its sentimental value was priceless, and I knew in the depths of my soul that Valerie had sold it. The house also changed physically. The walls I had painted in warm colors, yellow in the kitchen, olive green in the living room, were repainted gray and white. Neutral colors live, more modern. The ceramic tiles in the kitchen that Robert and I chose so carefully were covered with special paint. It is more hygienic. The clay pots I had in the garden were replaced by minimalist cement planters. Even my plants were changed. My red geraniums, my daisies, my poinsettias in December, as in all replaced by succulents and shade plants that Valerie considered more aesthetic for photos. Because, of course, Valerie uploaded everything to her social networks. Photos of my beautiful house, my renovated space, my lifestyle. My house turned into her Instagram stage. The family photographs that managed to survive the first purge ended up stored in boxes. They clash with the minimalist decor, Valerie explained. In their place, abstract paintings bought at IKEA, motivational phrases in English framed. Nothing that spoke of us, of our history, of the 3 decades Robert and I invested building this home. One day, while cleaning, because yes, besides being a nanny, I was also still the maid, I found a box in the hallway closet. Inside were all the family photographs, weddings, baptisms, birthdays, trips, 35 years of family memory piled up without order or care. In the same box, I found our wedding album. The pages yellowed, the corners bent. The photo where Robert carries me in his arms in front of the church, where we dance our first waltz, where we cut the cake surrounded by our parents who are no longer here. I sat on the floor of the hallway with that album in my hands and finally cried. I cried for the piano that no longer played songs, for the porcelain that would never return, for the watch that marked my husband's time until his last heartbeat, for the walls that no longer recognized my voice, for the house that had become a pretty shell but empty. I cried for the woman I was and that I let disappear without fighting. But I was not ready to react yet. I still thought that if I was patient, if I caused no problems, if I made myself tiny and invisible, maybe I would recover something of what was lost. I did not know that the worst was yet to come. I did not know that becoming a grandmother would be the last nail in my coffin of dignity. When taking care of my grandchildren became my unpaid job, Sam and Renee were born on March 15th. Identical twins with brown eyes and round cheeks that filled the house with crying diapers and that sweet smell of a freshly bathed baby. I loved them from the first second. But love, I discovered very soon, can become your own trap. The first month was understandable. Valerie was recovering from childbirth. Thomas worked late at the logistics company where he was a supervisor. I helped. Of course I helped. What grandmother wouldn't? I got up when they cried at 3 a.m. I prepared bottles, I changed diapers, I rocked cradles. Rest, Valerie, I will handle it. The second month continued the same. Liv, you are an angel. I don't know what we would do without you. The third month was already routine, and somehow, without anyone saying it explicitly, I had become the official nanny. By the time the twins turned 6 months old, my life had this schedule. 5:45 a.m. alarm clock. I make coffee and have my only moment of silence of the day. 6:30 a.m. The twins wake up. I change diapers. I prepare bottles. 7:00 a.m. Valerie comes out of the master bedroom perfectly dressed to work in her office. Thomas has already left since 6:00. 8:00 a.m. Breakfast for the children. Porridge, stained bibs, floor to clean. 9:00 a.m. I try to bathe them. One cries while I bathe the other. 10:00 a.m. I take them out to the garden for some sun. Valerie is on a video conference. She needs silence. 12:00 p.m. Lunch, more porridge, more mess. 1:00 p.m. Nap time for the kids. I take the opportunity to wash their clothes, prepare food for everyone. 3:00 p.m. They wake up. Games, diaper changes, constant attention. 5:00 p.m. I prepare family dinner. 6:00 p.m. Thomas arrives, greets the children for 5 minutes, sits down to watch television. 7:00 p.m. Dinner. I serve, I clean. 8:00 p.m. Night bath for the twins. 9:00 p.m. I put them to sleep. Songs, stories, pats on the back. It's on the 10:00 p.m. I can finally go to my service room. 7 days a week. Without rest, without a salary, without even a consistent thank you. But you don't work, Mom. You have time, Thomas said when I dared to suggest that maybe I needed help. Did not work? I got up before everyone and went to bed after everyone. My hands permanently smelled of baby soap and disinfectant. My knees creaked from carrying children so much. My back was a map of pain. But no, I did not work. Valerie did work. From her air-conditioned office with her laptop and her gourmet coffee doing, honestly, I never knew exactly what. Something related to social media for companies. What I do know is that when the twins cried, she closed the door. Liv, can you see what they need? I am on an important call. She was always on an important call. Weekends were worse. Thomas and Valerie went out. Mom, we need couple time. You understand? And I stayed with Sam and Renee from Saturday morning until Sunday night. When the twins turned 1, they were already walking and the house was a constant battlefield. One climbed on the couch while I ran to stop the other from putting fingers in the socket. They ate 3 times a day and every meal meant cleaning walls, floor, their faces, their hands, their clothes. My pension went to diapers, wipes, medicine when they got sick. Because yes, when they needed medicine at 2 a.m, it was I who went down to the pharmacy. Liv, I will reimburse you, Valerie said. She never did. Previous Christmases had been especially cruel. I bought gifts for the twins with my savings. I wrapped every toy with care. I wrote the cards. And on Christmas morning, Thomas and Valerie delivered them as if they had bought them. Look, Sam, this is from Mom and Dad. I watched from the kitchen, preparing the turkey that no one would thank, watching my grandchildren hug their parents for gifts I paid for. The first Christmas like that, I thought, well, they are their parents. It is logical. The second Christmas, maybe next year they will take me into account. The third Christmas was the one of the message, the taxi, the awakening. But before that definitive morning, there was a moment that broke something inside me, a moment I will never be able to forget. It was my 68th birthday, 3 months before that Christmas. Valerie organized a family reunion at my house. She invited her mother, her sister, 2 cousins. She also invited my sister Rose, who traveled from Santa Fe thinking it would be a celebration for me. The living room was decorated with pink and gold balloons. There was a table with snacks, wine, beer. Everything looked beautiful, until I realized I was not the honoree. Welcome to my house, Valerie said, receiving the guests as hostess. My house. Her mother, a lady with dyed blonde hair and too much jewelry, sat in the main armchair. What a beautiful home you have, daughter. I was in the kitchen heating the appetizers I had been preparing since 5 a.m. No one introduced me formally. No one toasted to me. No one mentioned it was my birthday. Rose found me washing dishes. Olivia, what are you doing? It is your day. Someone has to serve, I replied without looking at her. This is wrong, very wrong. But I just shook my head. I had already learned not to cause scenes. At some point in the afternoon, while taking more drinks to the living room, I heard Valerie's voice talking to her cousin in the hallway. They did not see me, or maybe they did not care. "And the lady?" asked the cousin. "Olivia. Poor thing, she doesn't serve for much anymore, but she helps with the kids. Thomas feels pity. That is why we let her stay. They let me stay. In my own house, as a favor, as an act of charity. Helps with the kids. Does not serve for much anymore." Every word was a blow to the chest. I stood paralyzed in the hallway with a tray of glasses in trembling hands, processing what I had just heard. Rose found me like that, frozen, with tears rolling silently down my cheeks. "Enough, Olivia," she whispered, taking me to the garden. "This has to end. I cannot leave. They are my family, my grandchildren. Your family is destroying you, and your grandchildren are not your responsibility. You are their grandmother, not their mother." That night, after everyone left, after washing all the dishes from my birthday in my house, where I was the maid, Rose sat with me in the service room. "Come to Santa Fe with me. I have space. I have a small textile workshop. You could help me, or simply rest, live, be Olivia again. I cannot abandon Thomas. Abandon! Olivia, look at yourself. You are the one being abandoned. I promised to think about it." But Rose knew my answer even before I said it. I was not ready yet. I needed something else. A final push. One last humiliation to wake me up completely. And 3 months later, it arrived in the form of a text message at 6 in the morning on Christmas. After that meeting where I was invisible on my own birthday, something began to move inside me. It was not immediate. It was not dramatic. It was like a small crack in a wall you thought was indestructible, a fissure that grows millimeter by millimeter until one day, with the precise blow, everything collapses. During the weeks following my birthday, I started observing, really observing. I saw how Valerie spent hours in her office making video calls with friends while I changed the 10th diaper of the day. I heard her laughing, drinking coffee, planning nights out, all while I tried to stop Renee from crying because she was teething. I saw how Thomas arrived from work, greeted the twins with 2 quick kisses, and locked himself in the master bedroom to watch series on his tablet. "I am tired, Mom. It was a heavy day." And my days? Did my days not count as heavy? I saw how on weekends they dressed up as if they were going to a wedding to go to brunches, exhibitions, dinners with friends, always leaving me with the children. We deserve a break, Liv. We work all week. One afternoon in October, Renee fell and split her eyebrow open. Blood everywhere, heartbreaking crying. I took the girl, grabbed the car keys that Valerie almost never used, and drove to the emergency room with Sam crying in his car seat. 3 hours in the hospital, 4 stitches. Renee clinging to my neck the whole time, calling me Nana, Nana, because she still couldn't pronounce Grandma. I called Valerie to let her know. "Oh, Liv, what a scare. But you were there, right? I am in the middle of an important presentation. Let me know how everything turns out." She hung up. She did not come to the hospital, neither she nor Thomas. When we returned home at 9 at night, I found them eating pizza in the living room, watching a movie. "How is my princess?" Valerie asked, getting up to hold Renee, who immediately reached out her arms to her. Because that is how it works, right? Children always want the one who arrives fresh, rested, with energy to play, not the one who changed diarrhea diapers at 5 in the morning. 4 stitches. "It will scar well," I said with a flat voice. "You're the best, Liv. Right, Thomas? Your mom is an angel, a useful piece of furniture, an extension of their comforts." That night, I could not sleep. I stared at the ceiling of the service room, listening to the hum of the old refrigerator that Valerie had relegated to the laundry room next to my door, and something crystallized in my mind. This was never going to change. They were never going to move out. I was never going to recover my house, my space, my life, unless I did something. The next day, I called Rose. "Sister, is your offer still standing?" There was silence on the other end. Then her voice loaded with relief. "Always, Olivia, always. I need time to plan. I don't want to leave without being sure of everything. What do you need? Information, numbers, options. Rose understood immediately. She was not just my older sister. She was a woman who had divorced at 50, who had built her own textile business in Santa Fe, who had learned to be strong when life forced her. She helped me contact a lawyer, a serious man named Mr. Henderson who worked in property and inheritance matters. I had to invent excuses to go to his office. I am going to the doctor, I told Valerie. Age things. Mr. Henderson reviewed the documents of my house. Mrs. Olivia, this property is completely in your name. You and your husband finished paying for it 12 years ago. There is no mortgage. There are no liens. It is legally yours, 100%. And if someone else lives there without my permission, you are within your rights to ask them to leave. It is your property. And if I want to rent it, it is also your right. You can make a lease agreement to whomever you decide, for the amount you decide. Those words were like oxygen to someone who had been drowning for 3 years. It was my house. I researched rental prices in my neighborhood. Houses similar to mine rented between $2,500 and $3,000 a month. My house, with 4 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, garden, garage for 2 cars, could easily rent for $3,000. I crunched numbers in a notebook I kept under my mattress. Monthly pension, $1,500. Potential rent, $3,000. Total monthly, $4,500. Current savings, $50,000. What was left of Robert's insurance after 3 years funding diapers and expenses that were not mine. With that money, I could live. I could breathe. I could be myself again. Rose sent me photos of her house in Santa Fe, an adobe construction near the Plaza Market. The upstairs room is yours if you want it. It overlooks the street, the sun comes in all morning, and downstairs is my workshop. You could help me if you want, or simply rest without pressure. For the first time in years, I imagined a different life. Waking up without the twins crying, drinking coffee without having to warm bottles, walking through cobblestone streets, maybe taking a class in something I liked, ceramics. I had always been interested in working with clay. During November, I took important documents out of the house little by little. My birth certificate, the deeds, insurance papers, photographs I still valued. I took them to my neighbor's house, Mrs. Higgins, a 75-year-old woman who lived alone and understood more than she said. Problems, Liv? She asked me one day while storing a box with my things in her closet. Changes, I replied. She nodded. Sometimes changing is the only thing that saves us. I opened a new bank account at a different bank than the one I used. I transferred my savings little by little so Thomas would not notice strange movements. He had access to my old account in case you need anything, Mom. In reality, it was so Valerie could check how much money I had left. I bought a plane ticket to Santa Fe for December 25th. Departure at 2:30 p.m. Arrival at 4:30 p.m. I wrote a letter. I rewrote it 10 times. Finally, I left only 3 lines. More would have been giving them explanations they did not deserve. And I waited. December arrived with its characteristic cold. The streets filled with Christmas lights, vendors, carols on every corner. Valerie decorated the house with a minimalist tree with white branches and silver spheres. None of the colored ornaments I had collected for decades. Those had also disappeared. This year, we are going to do Christmas big, Valerie announced mid-month. I am going to invite my family. Of course, her family. I helped cook. I helped clean. I helped wrap gifts they would buy and put under the tree as if they were theirs. On December 23rd, Valerie mentioned casually, "Liv, my mom wants us to spend Christmas at her house. She says she prepared a special dinner." I felt the floor move under my feet. And me? Well, you can come if you want. Although honestly, my mom made a reservation at a restaurant and the cover is a bit expensive. But if you want to chip in, of course you are welcome. Chip in? To go to a Christmas dinner with my daughter-in-law's family as a guest who must pay for her seat. Let me think about it, I said. That night, Thomas entered the kitchen while I was washing dishes. Mom, don't be difficult about dinner. Valerie just wants to spend time with her family, too. You understand? You understand. Those two words I had heard hundreds of times to justify every abuse, every dispossession, every humiliation. Of course, son, I understand. And in that moment, looking at wrinkled hands submerged in soapy water, hands that had worked tirelessly for 68 years, I knew. I was ready. The morning of the 24th, Valerie was getting the twins ready to go buy last-minute things. Liv, can you come with us? I need you to hold Renee while I look for a gift I missed. I can't. I have to go to the bank. To the bank? On Christmas Eve? They close early. It is urgent. I went to the bank. I withdrew $2,000 in cash. The rest would remain safe in my new account. That night, while they dined on turkey and eggnog at the mother-in-law's house, I finished packing my suitcase in the service room. I went to bed early. I set my alarm for 5:45 a.m. And at exactly 6 in the morning on December 25th, my phone lit up the darkness with a message that no longer surprised me. Mom, we are canceling lunch. We do not have time for you today. We are going to eat with my mother-in-law. I read the message 3 times. I smiled, and I began the last chapter of my life as a prisoner. At 5:45 a.m. on December 25th, my alarm rang in the dark. I dressed in my most comfortable clothes, jeans, cotton blouse, knitted sweater, closed shoes. I gathered my hair in a simple braid. I looked at myself in the mirror of the shared bathroom for the last time. The woman who stared back had deep circles under her eyes, wrinkles that were not there 3 years ago, completely white hair. But her eyes, those brown eyes that looked so much like my mother's, shone with something new: determination. At 6:00 a.m., the message I expected arrived. I read it without surprise, without pain, almost with gratitude, because it confirmed that my decision was the correct one. I took my suitcase. I took my bag with Robert's urn. I left the letter on the dining room table, held down by the ceramic salt shaker that had survived all of Valerie's purges. I closed the front door without looking back. The taxi was waiting for me with the engine running, puffing steam into the cold air of the Christmas morning. "Ready, ma'am?" the driver asked. "More than ever," I replied. And as we drove away through empty streets decorated with Christmas lights, I felt the weight of 3 years of humiliation lift off my shoulders like a coat, too heavy that you finally allow yourself to take off. They did not know what was coming, but soon they would discover it. The international airport was surprisingly quiet that morning of December 25th. Families scattered here and there, suitcases with Christmas bows, children with new toys clinging to their hands, everyone going somewhere where they were expected, where they were wanted. I was also going to such a place, only it had taken me 68 years to find it. I checked my suitcase at the counter. The employee, a young girl with a prop Christmas hat, smiled at me with genuine kindness. "Family visit?" "A new beginning," I replied. She blinked, surprised. Then her smile widened. "How beautiful. Merry Christmas, ma'am. Merry Christmas." I sat in the waiting room with my bag on my lap, feeling the weight of Robert's urn inside. Around me, people talked on the phone, sent messages, took pictures. I kept my cell phone off. I did not want to know, not yet. I thought of the twins. Would they have woken up yet? Sam was always the first, jumping on his bed, screaming that he wanted to open gifts. Renee was quieter. She stayed curled up until her brother forced her to get up. Would they miss me? Probably. Children always miss the familiar, the constant. And I had been their constant for 2 years. Not their mother, who was too busy being a social media influencer. Not their father, who worked late and arrived exhausted. Me, the grandmother who sang to them, who prepared oatmeal with honey, who told them invented stories about brave mice. I felt a lump in my throat. This was the hardest part, leaving them, who were innocent in all this. But then I remembered Rose's words, "You cannot set yourself on fire to keep others warm." The twins had parents, 2 young, healthy, capable parents. It was time they learned to do it. The flight was announced. I got up with my bag, showing my boarding pass with hands that no longer trembled. I entered the plane. I found my seat by the window. I placed the bag with Robert's ashes under the seat in front, just as the safety instructions indicated. An older lady sat next to me. She had to be about 70-something, with completely white hair gathered in an elegant bun. She had a book in her hands, Women Who Run with the Wolves. Good book, I told her, pointing at it. The best, she replied with a smile. I have read it 4 times, every time I need to remember my strength. We took off. The city became small beneath us, a mosaic of buildings and avenues that soon disappeared among the clouds. I reclined in my seat and closed my eyes, finally allowing myself to process what I had just done. I had left my son. I had abandoned my house. I had fled on Christmas. And most surprising of all, I did not feel guilty. I felt free. The plane landed in Santa Fe at exactly 4:00 p.m. The sky was a brilliant blue, the sun warm even in December, so different from the gray cold of the city. Rose was waiting for me in the arrivals area. I saw her before she saw me. She was thinner than I remembered, with short hair dyed a reddish brown. She wore an embroidered tunic and jeans. She looked happy, full, like someone who had found her place in the world. When our eyes met, she ran towards me with open arms. Olivia. She whispered against my hair while hugging me. You did it. You really did it. And there, in the middle of the airport, surrounded by the smell of local spices and the sound of native dialects mixing with English, I allowed myself to cry. Not from sadness, from relief. I came with everything, and Robert, I said, pointing to my bag. Rose laughed through tears. He also deserves a new beginning. The taxi took us through historic streets full of vibrant colors. Yellow houses, pink, green, blue, old churches with adobe facades, people walking without haste, greeting each other, stopping to chat on the corners. Everything was slower here, more human. Rose's house was on a cobblestone street near the plaza, a 2-story adobe construction with wrought iron balconies and pots full of red geraniums. She took me straight to the 2nd floor. This is your room. It was small but bright. A twin bed with a hand-woven quilt in orange and blue tones, a wooden rocking chair by the window overlooking the street, a nightstand with a lamp, an antique but solid wardrobe, and on the wall, a painting of Our Lady of Guadalupe. It is perfect, I whispered. Rest today. Tomorrow I will show you the rest. The workshop, the market, everything. But before Rose left, I took her hand. Thank you. For not judging me, for not telling me I should go back. Olivia, I have lived enough to know that there are times when the only way to save yourself is to walk away. You did the right thing. That night, while the city of Santa Fe celebrated Christmas with mariachi music filtering through my window, I sat in the rocking chair with Robert's urn in my lap. We did it, honey, I told him. We saved ourselves. I turned on my phone for the first time since the morning. 37 missed calls from Thomas, 22 messages, 4 from Valerie. I read them all without opening any. I could see the previews. Mom, where are you? Did something happen? We are worried. It is not funny anymore. Why did you leave? We need to talk. None said, I am sorry. None said, I miss you. None asked how I was. Everyone asked where I was. Because that was their real concern, not my well-being, but my location, my availability. I wrote a single message to Thomas. I am fine. I am safe. I need time. Do not look for me. I sent it and turned off the phone again. I lay in that new bed, in that room that smelled of clean sheets and old wood, in that city I did not know, but that already felt more like home than the service room where I had slept for 3 years. And for the first time in an eternity, I slept through the night without waking up startled by a baby's cry. I slept as one sleeps when you finally stop carrying the world on your shoulders. I slept like a free woman. When they returned and I was not there, I learned later, through my own sister who spoke with Mrs. Higgins, exactly what happened that night of December 25th when they returned home. It was 8:30 at night when Thomas's car parked in front of the house. Valerie was complaining that her mother had served too much food and she felt bloated. The twins were sleeping in their car seats, exhausted after a full day being spoiled by her family. Thomas opened the front door carrying Sam. Valerie entered behind with Renee in her arms. The house was completely dark, silent, cold. "Mom?" Thomas called, turning on the living room lights. Nothing. They took the twins up to their room. They put them to bed without changing their clothes. Valerie was in a bad mood. Surely she went out with a friend. How strange that she didn't say anything, but something in the silence of the house did not feel normal. Thomas went down to the kitchen. There was no smell of food, no dishes in the sink, the stove cold. Everything exactly as they had left it in the morning. It was then that he saw the letter on the dining room table, the white envelope with his name written in my shaky handwriting. He took it with hands that, I was told, trembled slightly. He opened it. He read the 3 lines once, twice, 3 times. "Valerie." His voice sounded strange. "You need to see this." She came down the stairs with annoyance. "What is it now?" Thomas handed her the letter without a word. Valerie read it. She blinked. She reread it. "Is this a joke? Check her room." They walked together down the hallway to the service room. Thomas opened the door. The bed was made with military precision. The small nightstand empty. The closet without a door showed only bare hangers. Not a piece of clothing, not a shoe, not a personal object. The shared bathroom had no trace of me either. My toothbrush, my cream, my shampoo, everything had disappeared. "She left," Thomas whispered. "Did she really leave?" Valerie let out a nervous laugh. "She is exaggerating, playing the victim. She will come back when her tantrum passes." But Thomas knew that handwriting. He knew the weight of those words. "I left. I need to remember who I am without you. Do not look for me." He took out his cell phone. He dialed my number. Voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. A 3rd time. Voicemail. Where is she? Why would she do this? His voice rose in volume with each question. "Thomas, calm down. It is Christmas. She cannot have gone very far." But by 11 at night, after 47 unanswered calls, after checking every room in the house looking for a clue, after calling nearby hospitals asking if any woman of my description had been admitted, panic began to set in. Thomas called Rose, my sister, bless her. She answered on the 3rd ring with a sleepy voice. "Aunt, it is Thomas. Have you heard anything from my mom? Why are you calling me at this hour, Thomas?" My mom disappeared. She left a letter. She says she left. Is she with you? There was a calculated silence on the other end. Rose knew how to act. She left? Where to? That is what I am asking you. No, I have not heard anything from her for weeks. Did you check the hospitals? Yes. She is not in any of them. My God, Thomas, what did you do to her? That question fell like a stone in still water. What did we do to her? Nothing. We just told her that today we would eat with Valerie's family on Christmas. Yes, you left her alone on Christmas. She could come if she wanted. Rose let out a sigh that sounded like deep disappointment. Look for her, Thomas, and when you find her, you better ask for forgiveness on your knees. She hung up. Thomas dropped onto the living room couch, that gray minimalist couch Valerie had bought to replace the one my husband loved. He had his head in his hands. "This is your fault," he told Valerie. "My fault? Why is it my fault?" "Because you have treated her like a servant since we got here. I did not force her to do anything. She offered help all the time, because she had no option, because we took her house, her space, her life. This is your mother, Thomas, not mine. If anyone should have paid attention to her, it was you. They fought until 3 a.m, Valerie crying, saying it was unfair to blame her. Thomas feeling miserable, but not knowing exactly what he had done wrong. Both ignoring the most obvious truth, that for 3 whole years they had turned me into a ghost in my own home. On December 26th, Thomas went to the police. I want to report a missing person. The officer, a middle-aged man with a thick mustache, took notes. How long has she been missing? Since yesterday. Yesterday? Sir, at least 72 hours must pass to... She is my mother. She is 68 years old. She left a note. She does not answer the phone. The officer reviewed the letter. It clearly says she left by her own choice. This is not a disappearance, sir. It is an adult exercising her right to leave. So you cannot help me? If after a few days she does not appear and there is reason to believe she is in danger, come back. But for now, this seems like a family matter. Thomas left the station feeling helpless. He called Mrs. Higgins, who feigned surprise perfectly. Olivia left? Oh, I cannot believe it. Although lately I saw her very quiet, very sad. Sad? Why would she be sad? Mrs. Higgins looked at him with something resembling pity. Son, when a woman loses her place in her own home, how do you think she feels? On the afternoon of December 27th, I finally turned on my phone. Rose was by my side in her living room drinking peppermint tea. Ready? I nodded. I wrote the message I had rehearsed mentally. I am fine. I am safe. I need time. Do not look for me. I sent it to Thomas and turned off the phone again before seeing his answer. But Rose had not turned off hers. 3 minutes later, it rang. Aunt, did you speak with her? She just wrote to me too. Where is she? I don't know, Thomas. She just says she is fine. I need to speak with her. The twins miss her. Renee cries at night asking for her grandma. Rose looked at me. I shook my head. She understood. Thomas, give her time. I think your mother needs space to think. Think about what? What did we do that was so terrible? Rose sighed. That is exactly the question you should be asking yourself. But instead of asking me, you should review the last 3 years of your life and find the answer yourself. She hung up. She took my hand. You are trembling. It is harder than I thought. I know, but the worst has passed. You left. You took the hardest step. Now comes the part where you build your new life. That night, in my bright room smelling of sage that Rose had burned to clear energies, I asked myself if I had done the right thing. The twins missed me. Renee cried for me. But then I remembered. They would cry for a few days, maybe weeks. Then they would adapt. Children always adapt. And maybe, just maybe, Valerie and Thomas would learn to be the parents their children needed. Because I had already raised my son. It was not my job to raise his. When I became myself again, the first days in Santa Fe were like learning to walk again. After 3 years of living according to others' schedules, of waking up with invisible alarms programmed by foreign needs, having my own time was almost disconcerting. The first full morning at Rose's house, I woke up startled at 5:45 a.m., my whole body on alert, expecting the twins' cry. But there was only silence, a warm and golden silence that entered through the window along with the New Mexico sun. I lay there, watching the light draw patterns on the ceiling. I heard sounds from the street, a vendor announcing tamales, the ringing of bells from a nearby church, voices of women chatting in Spanish while walking to the market. For the first time in years, no one needed me, and instead of feeling useless, I felt light. Rose knocked on my door around 9. Olivia, I made coffee. Do you want breakfast? I went down in my robe, without haste, without panic. Rose's kitchen was small but cozy, with talavera tiles and pots of basil in the window. It smelled of cinnamon and brown sugar. Did you sleep well? Rose stated, not as a question. Like I haven't slept in years. We ate sweet bread from the market and that thick, sweet coffee that tastes like childhood. We talked about small things, the weather, the neighbors, the stray cat Rose fed every morning. We did not mention Thomas. We did not mention the house. We did not mention anything that hurt. After breakfast, Rose took me on a tour of the neighborhood. The cobblestone streets went up and down whimsically. Colonial houses painted in impossible colors, deep purple, canary yellow, jade green, carved wooden doors that must be centuries old, Mr. Agustin lives here. He makes furniture. Rose pointed to a house smelling of freshly cut wood. Over there, Mrs. Carmela embroiders tunics. And that is Tony's grocery store, who also rents movies even though no one tells him Netflix exists. I laughed, a real laugh that came from some deep place I had forgotten existed. In the plaza market, Rose introduced me to her suppliers, women with strong hands and wide smiles who sold wool dyed with natural indigo, dried marigold flowers to make yellow dyes. "She is my sister Olivia," Rose said with pride. "She is going to stay with us." "Welcome," they told me, and in their eyes there was no pity or invasive questions, just simple and warm acceptance. We bought vegetables for the week, local cheese, things that Rose insisted I should try. They are tradition, sister, and they are delicious. On the way back home, we passed a small shop with a hand-painted sign, Pottery Workshop, classes Tuesdays and Thursdays. I stopped in front of the window. Inside were beautiful pieces, plates decorated with native designs, vases with organic shapes, cups with textures that begged to be touched. "You always wanted to do ceramics," Rose remembered. 30 years ago, when Thomas was small, but I never had time. Now you have it. We went in. The place smelled of damp earth and that particular aroma of clay. An older man with an apron stained with mud received us. "Good afternoon. Were you looking for something specific?" "Information about the classes," I said before thinking too much. "Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 6, $50 per class, material included. First class, free to try." I looked at Rose. She nodded with that smile that said, "Do it. Sign me up for next Tuesday." We walked back in silence, but it was a comfortable silence. Rose carried the vegetables. I carried in my bag a flyer with the workshop information and something I hadn't felt in a long time, excitement for something to come. That afternoon, while Rose worked in her textile workshop on the ground floor, I sat in my rocking chair with a new notebook I had bought at the market. I started writing. I didn't know exactly what. I just let the words flow. I wrote about the rosewood piano, about my mother's porcelain, about Robert's watch that never appeared, about 3 years of being invisible. I cried while I wrote. But they were not tears of self-pity. They were tears of liberation, like when you drain an infected wound and it can finally begin to heal. The following Tuesday, I went to my first ceramics class. There were 6 of us, 3 older women like me, a retired gentleman, and 2 young girls studying design. Master Aurelio taught us the basics, how to prepare the clay, how to center it on the wheel, how to feel its movement under the hands. My first attempts were disastrous. The clay wobbled, went off center, ended up being a deformed lump. But Aurelio just smiled. Ceramics teaches you patience. You cannot force the clay. You have to work with it. By the 3rd class, I managed to make a small bowl, imperfect with uneven walls. But mine, completely mine. "You did it," celebrated one of the ladies, who was named Susan and was 72 years old. "Your first piece, you will always remember this one." She was right. The weeks passed. January turned into February. I established my own routine, not imposed. I woke up when my body was ready, ate breakfast without rushing, helped Rose in the workshop when she needed extra hands to sort wool or pack orders. I went to my ceramics classes twice a week. I began to create a plate, a cup, a small vase. Each piece was a piece of me that I was recovering. Susan became my friend. She was also a widow, also had gone through complicated children. My daughters wanted me to sell my house and go live with them, she told me one day while we worked together on our pieces. I told them over my dead body. Now I live alone. I see them when I want, and I am happy. They got angry at first, but they got over it. "Don't you feel guilty?" "Guilty of what? Of taking care of myself? Of choosing me?" "Olivia, I spent 50 years taking care of others. I earned the right to take care of myself." Her words were like balm on wounds that were barely beginning to close. In March, Master Aurelio organized a small exhibition in a downtown gallery. Everyone is going to show their best piece. It is just for family and friends, nothing formal. but it is important to celebrate our work. I chose a set of 3 bowls I had made, each slightly smaller than the previous one, decorated with simple but elegant lines in cobalt blue. I called them Rebirth. Rose invited her friends from the market. Susan brought her niece. The retired gentleman brought his new boyfriend. The design girls invited half their university class. The gallery was small, with white walls and clay floors. My 3 bowls were on a lit shelf with a sign, Olivia Reyes, Rebirth. A woman stopped in front of them, observing them with attention. They are beautiful. They have something. There is hope in these pieces. Thank you, I managed to say with a broken voice. I sold the 3 bowls that night for $100. It wasn't much money, but when that woman paid me in cash and thanked me for creating something so special, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt worthy. That night, back at home, Rose opened a bottle of artisanal wine. To you, sister. To your rebirth. We toasted under the stars on her small terrace, and while the wine warmed my throat and the old city breathed around us, I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right decision. I had not fled my life. I had run towards it. What happens when the one who holds everything leaves? While I flourished in Santa Fe back home, everything was falling apart. I found out the details later from conversations Rose had with Thomas, from what the neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, observed from her window, from the desperate messages my son left on the voicemail of a phone I turned on only once a week. The first week without me was pure chaos. Thomas tried to hire a nanny. He posted ads in Facebook groups, asked at work, called agencies. The first candidate arrived on a Monday morning. She was a young girl of about 25 with impeccable references. She lasted exactly 3 days. The children are very demanding, she told Thomas when she quit. And your wife, she's at home all day but expects me to do everything. That was not what we agreed on. The second nanny was a lady of 50-something with 20 years of experience. She lasted a week. Your wife talks to me as if I were her personal employee, she explained. She asked me to bring her coffee, to heat her food, to wash her clothes. I came to take care of children, not to serve an adult. The third one didn't even finish the first day. She left mid-morning with the twins crying and Valerie shouting that she was incompetent. By February, there were no nannies available. The residential area where we lived was not that big, and Valerie's reputation as an impossible employer had already circulated. Valerie had to take charge of the twins, completely, without intermediaries, without escape. The first days, she tried to maintain her work routine. She locked herself in her office with the children playing outside, hoping they would entertain themselves. But Sam and Renee were 2.5 years old. They did not entertain themselves. They needed constant attention. "Mom! Mom! Mom!" they shouted, banging on the office door. Her video conferences filled with interruptions, upset clients, delayed projects, warnings from her boss. "I cannot work like this," she shouted to Thomas one night. "Your children don't let me concentrate. They are our children, Valerie, and before my mom took care of this. And what do you want me to do? Go to Santa Fe and beg her to come back? Maybe." But Valerie's pride was bigger than her practical sense. The household bills began to arrive. Electricity, $200. Water, $80. Gas, $120. Internet and cable, $150. Phones, $90. Thomas looked at them confused. Were they always this high? I don't know. Your mom always paid them. With what money? Valerie shrugged. With her pension, I suppose. What they didn't know is that I didn't just pay for utilities. I paid for the bottled water they drank daily, the twins' diapers when they ran out mid-week, medicines when they got sick at dawn, extra gas when they had visitors, the special detergents Valerie demanded for the children's clothes. Small expenses that added up easily reached $400 or $500 a month from my pocket. Without me, those financial holes became evident. "We need to adjust the budget," Thomas announced one night while they ate takeout for the 5th time in the week. Valerie looked at him with annoyance. "Adjust how?" "We don't go out anymore." We don't do anything. This house has become a jail. Well, that is how my mom felt the last 3 years. That phrase provoked a fight that lasted until 2 in the morning. The twins noticed the tension. Sam, who had always been cheerful, became irritable. He threw tantrums over anything. Renee stopped sleeping well. She woke up crying, asking for her Nana. "Where is Nana?" she asked every morning. "Nana is traveling," Valerie responded with impatience. "When is she coming back?" "I don't know, Renee. Ask your dad." One Saturday in March, Thomas found Valerie crying in the kitchen. The house was a disaster. Toys scattered all over the living room, unwashed dishes from the day before, mountains of unfolded clothes on the couch. "I can't take it anymore," she sobbed. "I can't handle everything. I can't handle the kids, the house, the work. Your mother made it look easy because we gave all the work to her. And what did you want? For us to pay her?" "Yes, Valerie, exactly that. We should have paid her, or better yet, we should have moved 3 years ago like we said we would." Valerie wiped her tears with rage. "And now what? Are you going to blame me for everything?" "It is not blame, Valerie, it is reality. We abused my mom, both of us, and she got tired. The fights became routine. They argued about money, about who watched the kids, about who cleaned, about who cooked. Everything I did silently was now a battlefield. Thomas's messages on my voicemail became more desperate. "Mom, please, we need to talk." "I don't know how you did it. The kids ask for you every day. Valerie and I don't stop fighting. I think this is destroying our marriage. Can you at least tell me what I did wrong? I need to understand." Rose showed me the messages. "Are you going to answer him?" "Not yet. He needs to hit rock bottom. He is pretty far down, sister, but he hasn't understood. He still thinks the problem is that I am not there. He doesn't understand that the problem is how they treated me when I was there." In April, 3 months after my departure, Thomas finally did something he hadn't done in years. He took a week of vacation to stay at home. He wanted to understand. He wanted to live what I had lived. Monday. The twins woke him up at 5:30 a.m. By 9:00 a.m., he was already exhausted. He had changed 4 diapers, prepared 2 breakfasts that ended up on the floor, broken up 3 fights, and cleaned spilled juice on the couch. Tuesday. Sam got sick to his stomach. Vomit everywhere. Clothes to wash every hour. Renee catching it by Wednesday. 2 sick children crying at the same time. Valerie locked in her office because she had an important presentation. Thomas running between both, not knowing who to attend to first. Thursday. The kids better, but the house was a disaster zone. Mountains of dirty laundry, dishes that had accumulated, bathrooms needing deep cleaning. Friday. Thomas tried to cook something healthy for the kids. He burned the rice. Sam spit out the vegetables. Renee only wanted nuggets. They ended up eating cereal for dinner. Saturday night, Thomas sat on the living room floor with his back against the couch. The twins finally asleep. Valerie in the shower, the house in silence. And he cried. He cried because he understood. He understood that I had done that every day for 2 whole years, without complaint, without rest, without thanks. He understood that I hadn't left on a whim or a tantrum. I had left for survival. Sunday morning, without telling Valerie, he bought a bus ticket to Santa Fe. Rose called me. "He is on his way." "I know. Are you ready?" More than ever. Because after 3 months of peace, of ceramics, of building myself anew, I was finally ready to face my son. But not as the submissive mother I had been, as the woman who had learned to value herself. When my son finally listened to me. Thomas arrived in Santa Fe on a Sunday afternoon. Rose notified me from downstairs. "Olivia, he is here." I looked in the mirror of my room. The woman who stared back was different from the one who had fled on Christmas. She had color in her cheeks. Her white hair shone clean and well cut, thanks to Susan, who had taken me to her stylist. My eyes no longer carried those deep circles. I wore a simple tunic that Rose had given me and comfortable pants. I looked like someone who lived, not someone who just survived. I went down the stairs slowly. Thomas was in the living room, standing by the table where Rose worked her textiles. He looked terrible. Marked circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, several days' beard. He had lost weight. When he saw me, his face crumbled. Mom, Thomas. We stood looking at each other for a moment that seemed eternal. Rose got up discreetly. I am going to the market. Take your time. When the door closed, the silence became dense. You look good, he finally said. I am. The kids miss you. They ask for you every day. I didn't answer. I waited. He ran his hands through his hair with desperation. Mom, this has to end. We need you to come back. We cannot go on like this. There it was. The speech he had come to give, the plea wrapped in need. I listened to it completely, waiting for the right moment. Nannies don't work. Valerie and I fight all the time. The kids are out of control. The house is a disaster. I don't know how you did it, but we can't. His voice broke. Please, Mom, come home. I sat in Rose's armchair. Thomas remained standing, expecting me to yield as I had always yielded. Do you miss your mother, or do you miss the free nanny? He froze. What? Answer me, Thomas. When you think about me coming back, do you think about seeing me, hugging me, asking me how I am? Or do you think about who is going to change your children's diapers? Mom, that is not fair. Not fair? Let's talk about what is not fair. I stood up, feeling a strength I didn't know I had. Is it fair that you took my bedroom? Is it fair that I ended up in the service room of my own house? Is it fair that Valerie sold your father's piano for $500 when it was worth more than $10,000? What? I went to my room and came down with the notebook where I had written everything down. I handed it to him. Read. Thomas opened the notebook with trembling hands. His eyes scanned the list I had made so carefully. Rosewood piano, sold for $500. Real value, $10,000. Grandma's porcelain, sold for $150. Priceless value. Your father's gold watch, missing, value $3,000. Wicker rocking chair, sold for $50. Silver tea set, gifted to Valerie's cousin, value $1,000. Grandpa's mahogany bookshelf, donated without permission. Vinyl records, disappeared. The list continued. 32 items, a complete inventory of everything I had lost in 3 years. At the end of the list, I had written, approximate total in material losses, $20,000. Total in sentimental losses, priceless. Thomas's face paled as he read, Mom, I didn't know. Valerie never told me. And you never asked. When your grandmother's porcelain disappeared, did you ask where it went? When the piano was no longer there, did you care? When I told you I couldn't find your father's watch, did you look for it? I thought you had stored those things. I stored them for years, Thomas, with care, with love, because they were our family history, and your wife sold them as if they were flea market trash. He dropped onto the couch. My God, and that is just the material stuff. Do you want to talk about the rest? I sat in front of him, looking him directly in the eyes. 2 years taking care of your children from 6 in the morning until 10 at night, 7 days a week, without a single day off, without a salary, without even a consistent thank you. You said you wanted to help. Help, Thomas, not be exploited. Help is a few hours a day, a few times a week. What I did was raise your children because neither you nor Valerie wanted to do it. That is not true. You what? How many times did you bathe the twins? How many nights did you get up when they cried? How many times did you take them to the doctor? Tell me, Thomas. Give me a number. Silence. I will tell you. 0. The answer is 0. Because every time your children needed something, you handed them to me as if I were their mother and not their grandmother. I worked all day, and I didn't work, right? Because taking care of children is not work. Cleaning is not work. Cooking is not work. Washing mountains of clothes is not work. My voice rose in volume. Do you know how much a full-time nanny costs, Thomas? Between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. I did that for free for 2 years, 24 months. That is almost $100,000 you owed me." He did the math mentally. His face crumbled even more. "And still," I continued, "still I could have endured it if you had at least treated me with respect. But you made me invisible in my own home. Remember my birthday 4 months ago? Your birthday." He started confused. "Valerie organized a family reunion at my house. She introduced her mother as the guest of honor. I served all night as if I were the employee. And when I thought no one was listening, I heard your wife tell her cousin, 'Poor thing, she doesn't serve for much anymore, but she helps with the kids.'" Thomas closed his eyes. "Mom, I don't serve for much anymore." Those were her words. "And you never defended me. You never protected me. You never saw me." Tears began to roll down my son's cheeks. "I am sorry. God, Mom, I am so sorry. What exactly do you feel sorry about? That I left? Or how you treated me? Everything. I am sorry for everything." He wiped his face with his hands. "You are right. About everything. We were selfish. I was selfish. I let Valerie take control of your house and said nothing. I let them take your space and thought you were okay because you never complained. I complained, Thomas, many times, but you silenced me. You told me not to exaggerate, not to make drama, to understand. I know, and it was wrong. It was all wrong." He knelt in front of me, something he hadn't done since he was a child. "Mom, forgive me. Please, forgive me for not seeing you, for not listening to you, for leaving you alone on Christmas, for everything." I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw my adult son crying like when he was little and fell off his bike. I saw the man I raised, educated, loved with every fiber of my being. But I also saw the man who had allowed me to be destroyed. "I accept your apology, Thomas, because you are my son and I love you. But that doesn't mean things will go back to how they were." "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "It means that if I want to be part of your life again, it will be on my terms, not Valerie's, not yours, mine." "What do you need?" "First, I need you to understand that that house is mine, only mine. The deeds are in my name. Your father and I paid for it. You have lived there 3 years without paying rent, without paying full utilities, without really contributing." He nodded, waiting. "I spoke with a lawyer before leaving. That house can be rented for $3,000 a month easily. So you have 2 options. You rent the house officially for $2,500 a month with a legal contract, or you move out and I look for other tenants. $2,500, he calculated mentally. "It is a fair price, Thomas, less than market value, but you will no longer live for free at my expense." "Okay, we will do it. I will sign whatever is necessary." "Second," I continued, "I am staying in Santa Fe. I have my life here now. I have my ceramics classes. I have friends. I have peace." His face crumbled. "Are you not coming back? I will visit you once a month. As a grandmother, not a nanny. I will arrive, hug my grandchildren, spend quality time with them, and I will leave. The rest of the time, you handle being the parents you chose to be. But the kids need you. The kids need their parents, and their parents need to learn to be parents." Thomas cried silently. It was not manipulative crying. It was the crying of someone who finally understood the magnitude of what he had lost. "Is there anything else?" he asked with a hoarse voice. "Yes. One last thing. Valerie and you need couples therapy, and probably individual therapy, because what I saw in those 3 years was not a healthy marriage. It was a toxic partnership where I was the glue keeping everything together." He nodded. "We will do it. And Thomas," my voice softened, "if you really want us to have a relationship again, you need to work on yourself. You need to learn to set boundaries. You need to learn to see the people you love before they disappear." "I will, Mom. I promise." I hugged him then, because he was still my son, because I loved him, but no longer from the blind selflessness that had destroyed me. I loved him from a place of self-respect, And that was the difference that changed everything. How I recovered my dignity. 2 weeks after Thomas's visit, Mr. Henderson traveled to the city with the contracts ready. Rose called me on video call so I could witness the signing from Santa Fe. Thomas and Valerie were sitting at the dining room table of my house. Valerie had her arms crossed and an expression mixing fury with helplessness. Thomas looked resigned, but also relieved, as if there was finally clarity after months of chaos. Mrs. Valerie? Mr. Thomas, the lawyer began with a professional tone. This is a standard lease agreement. The property will be rented for the amount of $2,500 per month. The payment must be made within the first 5 days of each month via bank transfer. Valerie interrupted him. This is ridiculous. It is the family house. The lawyer did not flinch. It is Mrs. Olivia Reyes's property. You have resided here as guests for the last 3 years. This contract formalizes your stay and protects the rights of both parties. And if we don't sign? Valerie asked defiantly. Then Mrs. Olivia will initiate a legal eviction process. As the owner, she is well within her rights. The process takes approximately 90 days. During that time, you would have to look for another home. Thomas put his hand over Valerie's. We are going to sign. Excuse me? She is right, Valerie. It is her house. It always was. We have lived here for free too long. This is fair. Valerie glared at him, but Thomas had already taken the pen. He signed every page marked, his initials firm and clear. After a long, tense silence, Valerie also signed, although every stroke seemed to cause her physical pain. Excellent, said the lawyer, gathering the copies. 1 copy for you, 1 for Mrs. Olivia, and 1 for the notary file. The first payment is due May 5th. Any questions? And what about repairs? Thomas asked. The heater is acting up. According to the contract, minor repairs are the tenant's responsibility. Major repairs, the owner's. You can send a formal report and each case will be evaluated. When the lawyer left, I heard through Rose's phone how Valerie exploded. Are you happy? Your mother turned us into tenants, in our own house. It was never our house, Valerie. It was hers, and we treated her so badly she preferred to go live in another city than stay here with us. You are weak. You always have been. First with your mother, now with this. And you are a user who sold my family's belongings as if they were scrap. $150, Valerie. You sold my father's piano for $500 when it was worth $10,000. The silence that followed was eloquent. I didn't know, she started. Of course you knew. That's why you never told me how much they gave you. That's why the gold watch disappeared. That's why everything that had value evaporated while we redecorated with cheap furniture. I heard steps, a door slamming, Thomas sighing deeply. Rose hung up shortly after. Did you hear everything? Enough. How do you feel? Victorious. And I meant it. The first payment arrived on May 3rd, $2,500 deposited punctually in my account, plus my pension of $1,500 added up to $4,000 a month. With that income, I could not only live dignifiedly, I could prosper. I increased my ceramics classes to 3 times a week. I bought a small wheel to practice at Rose's house. Master Aurelio invited me to participate in an artisan market organized every Sunday in the plaza. Your pieces have something special, Olivia. People connect with them. He was right. Every Sunday, I sold between 3 and 5 pieces. Bowls, cups, small plates. Nothing very elaborate, but each one made with care and love. The extra money I saved. I already had a plan. In June, Thomas kept his word to visit me once a month. He arrived with the twins on a Saturday morning. He had rented a car and driven the hours to Santa Fe. When Sam and Renee saw me, they ran towards me shouting, "Nana! Nana!" I hugged them with an intensity that surprised me. I had missed them, but it was a healthy missing, of a grandmother who loves, not a slave who serves. I missed you so much. I told them, covering their faces with kisses. We spent the day together. I took them to the market where I bought them wooden toys. We ate enchiladas at a stall Rose recommended. I took them to my ceramics workshop where Master Aurelio gave them clay to mold whatever they wanted. Renee made a deformed snake. Sam a circle with holes he insisted was a cheese. Both were full of mud and happiness. "You don't live with us anymore, Nana," Renee asked while we ate ice cream. "Now I live here, my love. But I visit you, and you can visit me too." "Why did you leave?" Thomas intervened. "Because Nana needed her own space, and Dad was foolish and didn't realize it in time. But now we will come to see her often, yes?" The children nodded. Satisfied with that simple explanation? At night, after putting the twins to bed in the guest room Rose had prepared, Thomas and I sat on the terrace. "Valerie and I are in therapy," he said without me asking. "How is it going?" "Difficult, painful, but necessary." He took a sip of his coffee. "The therapist made us see that our marriage was built on very fragile foundations. I worked to escape home. She played at being an influencer to avoid dealing with being a mother. And you were the one holding everything together. And now? Now we are learning." Valerie reduced her work hours to be more with the children. I arrive earlier. We have dinner together. We bathe the twins together. "It is exhausting, Mom. I don't know how you did it alone, because I had no choice. You took it from me." He nodded, ashamed. "The therapist also suggested that maybe we need family therapy, with you included, when you are ready. Maybe, eventually. Will you forgive us someday?" I looked at him. My son, my only son, the boy I had raised, taught to walk, to read, to be a good man. The man who had failed me but was now trying to fix it. "I already forgave you, Thomas. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means I no longer carry the weight of resentment, that I chose my peace over my rage. Thank you, Mom. But listen to me well. I will never live like that again. I will never make myself invisible so others can shine. I will never give so much of myself that nothing is left for me. I wouldn't ask you to. I promise I won't." In July, I received an unexpected call. It was Valerie, Olivia. Her voice sounded strange, almost humble. "Can we talk? Speak. I need to ask for forgiveness. For everything. For selling your things. For treating you how I treated you. For making you feel invisible in your own home." She paused. "I have no excuse. I was selfish and cruel. And if I could return everything I took, I would. You cannot return it, Valerie. It is done." "I know. But I want you to know I am trying to be better. With the children. With Thomas. And if one day you can forgive me. Forgiveness is a process, Valerie. It is not something given automatically because someone asks. It is earned with consistent actions, not with pretty words." "I understand. Just thank you for listening to me." She hung up. Rose, who had heard my side of the conversation, looked at me with pride. "Look who you are now, strong, clear, not letting yourself be manipulated. I learned from the best." I smiled, pointing at her. In August, I participated in my first formal exhibition. A small gallery in downtown Santa Fe was showing new artisan voices, and Master Aurelio nominated me. I presented a collection of 12 pieces called Rebirth. Each one represented a stage of my transformation. There was a cracked plate I had repaired with the kintsugi technique, the fractures highlighted with gold dust, a vase shaped like a cocoon opening, a cup with roots growing from the base. Susan came to the opening. Rose invited half the market. Thomas made the trip with the twins to be present. "Look, Sam," he told him, showing my pieces. "Your grandmother made this. She is an artist." "It is pretty," said the boy with sincere admiration. I sold 8 of the 12 pieces that night. The money didn't matter as much as what it meant. Someone valued my work. Someone considered what I created had enough value to take home. That night, back at Rose's house, I sat in my rocking chair with a cup of chamomile tea. Robert's urn was on my nightstand where I always kept it. "We made it, honey," I whispered. I found my way back to myself, and while the old city breathed under the stars, while the smell of sage filtered through my window, while Roses and her friends' voices laughed on the ground floor, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt I was exactly where I should be, not in the service room of a house that no longer saw me, but in my own space, with my own life, finally being myself. Because sometimes the sweetest justice is not revenge. It is flourishing. Final reflection. A full year passed since that Christmas morning when I woke up with a message that changed my life. Today I am 69 years old. I live in Santa Fe with my sister. I teach ceramics classes twice a week to other women who, like me, are rediscovering themselves. I sell my pieces at the artisan market. I visit my grandchildren once a month and enjoy every minute with them because now I am a grandmother, not a substitute mother. Thomas and Valerie continue paying the rent punctually. They are still in therapy. Their marriage survived, although transformed. The twins are learning that having present parents is better than having an exhausted grandmother. Do I regret leaving? Not a single day. Because I learned something every woman should know. Loving yourself is not selfishness. It is the most revolutionary act you can do. When you stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm, you discover that your own light is sufficient. And that light, the one shining from self-respect, recovered dignity, and the courage to choose yourself, is the one that finally illuminates the path back home, to your true home, to yourself. If this story touched your heart, let me know in the comments where you are watching us from. Has something similar happened to you? Do you know someone who needs to hear this? Subscribe for more real-life stories, and remember, it is never too late to choose yourself, because true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take from you. And the most valuable thing you have is you.